Another soggy day. It's actually supposed to be raining for the whole week and everything like that too. I guess all the grass and the plants will be really happy afterwards. Was there somebody exercised out in the rain or something? Would you actually take that? I've never seen actually anyone actually do that, bring like a car and take things like a couch or especially stuff like that. The first thing that caught my attention today, holy cow, did anyone see that Conor McGregor situation? For those who don't know, he's a UFC fighter. And this one here, apparently he went to the UFC press conference because there was an event taking place. And he went with a mob of people and they essentially started to assault like the other fighters, throwing stuff on the buses and all that. There's videos of it too, probably like in almost every single angle. Like, what is this guy on? Did money and fame just get to your head or something? Apparently the dispute has something to do about him being stripped away from his title, because for those who don't watch the UFC, he basically has 2 titles and he hasn't really been defending it. So as a result, he's being stripped of it. And this is what the official statement said from the Dana White from the UFC. It says, "What happened here today is Conor and approximately 20 guys apparently were let in through the doors by the Mac Life guys, McGregor's media company, who were credentialed here. They opened the doors for him through an entrance. They stormed the building, got down to the loading docks where the fighters were getting on the buses and started to attack the buses, throwing trash cans and dollies, things like that." I mean, it even says like some people got injured. Like here it says like one person had his head was cut, his face, and basically everyone was shaken up because obviously you would be. Just 30 people randomly jumping in there starting like a riot like that, holy cow. And it says, "This is the most disgusting thing that has ever happened in the history of the company. You can imagine he's going to be sued beyond belief and this was a real bad career move for him." That's really unfortunate. In many ways, I'm hoping this is just a publicity stunt because I know he often goes out of the edge. That's what's made him, I guess, a spectacle in many ways. Like how much trash talking he does to people, then he beats them. That's essentially like he talks the talk and walks the walk. But this, I don't know. That's going a little overboard, it seems like. And it kind of interests me too because even one guy made the comment here, says, "At what point is McGregor, like what he did, considered a crime?" Would this be considered like a serious crime? I know in his press he said basically there's a warrant for his arrest, so he can't leave the airplane or anything like that. But then I read some other lines. Basically it says the police just wants to talk to him. Does that mean the same thing? But the police wants to quote talk to you versus say there's a warrant for your arrest? And then I got this related to the drones. Seems like there was a lot of outraged Canadians. So you guys sent me this video and I took a look at it. Apparently it was a interview, I believe it was in Calgary. And it was done on Global, where a company, I talked about this company before, apparently they were offering or are offering some kind of drone training program in the future. It's called Bow Valley College, and it's basically trying to accommodate, like as we know, potentially when the final regulation comes, the assumption is we're all gonna have to do some kind of tests and all that, pay for insurance, and they're a school that's supposed to, I guess, train people to do stuff like that, to make you qualified to fly. So they start off this interview by first talking about the regulations that are coming in and why you need to be certified. And they specifically say in a little statement there that every drone 25 kilograms and under will fall under these guidelines, and you'll have to essentially be certified if that's what you want to say.
Transport Canada will be putting in new aviation laws that every UAV operator and pilot in Canada will be expected to know and follow. These regulations will impact all small UAVs that weigh less than 25 kilograms.
Now I'm thinking about this, what do you mean every drone that's 25 kilograms and under? To my understanding, I mean correct me if I'm wrong, but if a drone is under 250 grams, Transport Canada is not regulating that. If you're flying it for fun, for example, and it's under that weight, you don't need any of this registration or anything like this. No licensing, whatever. Because that would be considered the, quote, toy drone. So this is a little misleading in my opinion, and it kind of makes me worried again. If we are to go to, quote, instructors or some of that, shouldn't you know this and communicate this with people? Afterwards, they try to educate the general public, that's what they're there for, about how these regulations are very similar to things like a car driver's license, how you need insurance and all that, and how we're basically trying to catch up with the US on how they handle things like the drones and the registration and all that.
So just like driving a vehicle, you're going to need a license, you're going to need registration, and you're going to need insurance.
I mean, for the most part, nothing wrong with that, but this idea that this drone registration is like a car license, that's just not the case so far. I mean, just like taking that test, to my understanding, even for these small drones, you still kind of have to put your full name and address and contact number and stuff on the drone. I mean, try using that analogy with the car license for a regular car driver. Would you put your full name, address, contact details in the front of your car for everybody to see? I don't think so. And I think basically that's the point that was missed here, which is unfortunate, which made me think more this segment isn't so much to educate people as opposed to, it felt more like it's a commercial, like for the company, but I'll get into that a little later. Because actually there was one funny part. It seemed like the reporter was trying to get clarification. Okay, so which drones do these regulations affect, for example? And she seemed like she was trying to indicate like even these small drones, like it seemed like she has a bit of knowledge saying there were some things that are exempt. But again, they basically said all drones.
These rules are going to be for the bigger drones.
Actually, all drones.
For all drones, that's correct.
Even the ones that are under the 25.
These are micro drones.
Okay.
And this would be something that you would buy for your kid.
Okay.
But everybody has to follow the same set of rules because they're all sharing the same airspace as fixed-wing aircraft and other types of aircraft.
Someone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong again, but if your drone is under 250 grams and you're flying it for fun and all that, Transport Canada does not regulate that. You do not need to take the test and so forth. According to them, with all the literatures on their site and even in that Transport Canada meeting and everything like that I attended, if it's under 250 grams, you do not need this. So I'm not really sure why they don't clarify that in this report anyways, like from the interview.
So starting off with, you see we have 3 categories up here that we're proposing as the way forward for regulating UAS in Canada. You see there's nothing over here, but there's actually another category over here, which is 250 grams and below. It's not there because our intent is not to regulate that small of a UAS in the current package.
What worried me a little bit is because they were saying how every drone pilot, you'll now need certification and training, like to be able to fly your drone. And I'm just thinking from a regular person point of view, when you think training, you're probably gonna think of something like road tests or something like that. Like you have to actually drive out there, go to a school. But to my understanding with the Transport Canada, they said this certification and license, you don't need to go to like say an office, do some kind of formal testing that way. Apparently, even from that session that I attended, it's supposed to be some kind of online thing that you fill out, answer some questions, and you're done. They did it in comparison to something like a boating license. So it's a little troubling for me to kind of hear this because as a regular person, I would assume it's, again, you have to go to a school to actually do this when that's not the case. Unless they have something completely new that I'm not aware of, like in terms of their proposal.
One of them doesn't necessarily belong to the pilot, we'll talk about in a sec. So flying a very small, minimum age of 14, successfully completed a written knowledge exam. How many boaters do we have here? Boaters? You have their small pleasure craft license? That's the kind of thing we're talking about. You go online, you get about 3-4 hours of training, write an exam, you print it out, and you have your certificate. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here. We're not talking about a formal, go to transport, write an exam kind of thing.
And the person's facial expression, like the reporter when she asked, can I ask how much the cost is? You can kind of see like she doesn't know if they're going to answer it. But they say here, in terms of their costs, it'll be around $800, I guess, for their course. $400 for a limited one, where you get things like textbooks and stuff like that, I guess, to read. I'm just thinking about there, $800 just to say someone goes through that. That's really expensive. At the same time, you're the instructor, for example, you're the professional who is apparently approved by Transport Canada to teach, I guess you can say, whereas I am like, say, a recreational flyer and I fly for fun. But so far with the information like they provided, I'm worried if this is basically how it's going to be. I mean, just alone, like I said, that they didn't mention, for example, about the under 250 grams, like where it won't be regulated, it just makes me wonder how much information people are going to be fed where they think they need to pay all this money when really they don't. I mean, if you offer a great service, you think people will excel at learning something fast that's different, but again, I'm just thinking for a regular person, I would think it would come across as people think you need to go to like an official school and stuff like that. And at the end, this part got me thinking again. For example, myself, recreational flyer, them, the professional. I would assume they should know way more than a person like me. They're like the encyclopedia for most people. And at the end, the lady was there talking to them saying, oh, I wish I could fly this. Like, I guess just to try it. Like, to me, it'd be, okay, why not? You're in a studio, you want to try it, like, go ahead. Like, they're under control and everything. But they make a statement saying, you could, but that would be illegal.
I wish I could fly some of these in studio.
Well, we could fly them in the studio, but it would be illegal.
Very against the rules.
Like, that's what they said. It would be illegal for them to fly with that reporter there inside the studio. And I was thinking, I specifically heard before in Transport Canada said they have no real intent to regulate things that are indoor in a situation where everyone's part of the operation, if that makes sense. It's completely different if it's something like you are in a public stadium right now, like say an indoor amusement park, and you want to fly your drones indoor there with the regular public who are not, quote, part of the operation. That's different. But in this case, you're in a studio, it's a controlled environment, everyone's part of the, quote, operation. Technically, if you let them fly it, they're documenting and all that, you know the, quote, risk. That's perfectly okay. And one of the main reasons this really got my attention, like that quote saying it's illegal for them to fly like in that situation there, is because even for me when I'm educating people about the drones, letting them fly it is a great way to do it. I do it in a really controlled way, like even for myself, like with the Mavic, I put it in a tripod mode, and to see their delight to fly it, to realize afterwards, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of, it's really simple. And to not do this, like here, when you have the opportunity to do that, telling them no, it's illegal, you kind of mystify it, like it's so dangerous, it's so deadly, which in my opinion doesn't help in terms of making the tech more mainstream in a way where people don't need to fearmonger it. If these are the, quote, professionals, I guess the people that are supposed to be higher, I guess you can say, like a person like myself, in terms of a information source and authority to kind of teach and educate people about the drones and to pay them so much money to do that, it makes me worried whether or not things like these insurance and all that is more for commercial reasons, not even really to do about safety. I guess the over-exaggerated example is, since they mentioned things like the US, I remember doing the video about there's this website where to register your drone they charge you, it was something crazy, I don't know what it was, like $50, $100, something like that, whereas in the US apparently all you have to do is go to a website and fill out some simple forms. So why wouldn't you just do that yourself as opposed to doing it through the company instead? That's what kind of this situation in many ways reminds me of. Again, if they provide a service where you think people can learn a lot better, more efficiently, then more power to you. It's a service you offer, then if they think it's worth $800, then great. But like in this case, to not make it more clear that, you know, if your fly drone's under 250 grams, then, you know, you don't need us. Like, fly for fun. Like, you're not mentioning stuff like that. I don't know. That rubs me the wrong way personally. I noticed some of the cherry blossoms are already a lot darker. I'll probably look cool afterwards once the rain stops in terms of getting some kind of footage and stuff. Hopefully that company clarifies it and stuff like that too, in terms of not everyone has to pay like a license and stuff like that. It depends on what you're flying, where, how, and all that stuff. But I guess one of the things I'm thinking too is I've actually done a lot of shows like that, being like the guest expert and stuff, and I was actually surprised because it's actually the guests that they invite. They're actually the ones making all the material for the most part, coming up with what to talk about, and I guess the reporters more there to facilitate it. So it's a little bit more disappointing too if they actually had an opportunity to prepare what to say in a thorough way, yet stuff like this still got out there. That's a little disappointing to me personally. Okay, what to edit for today too? Alright, see you guys later.